So the college football playoff rankings just got released. Reese Davis talked about this, but I don't care that Reese Davis talked about it because he's right about it, so I'm going to lead the show with it. There is a doomsday scenario out there for the ACC. We see the iceberg. That's the good news. We can avoid it. As a conference, this is me and the ACC. We're speaking amongst ourselves right now. I've never even called myself ACC Pate, but there's a first time for everything. We can't let this happen. We can't let this happen. What is this? What are we talking about? What is this? All right. There is a world where the ACC misses the playoff, which was once thought to be impossible, but that was a whole different world. That was like 3 weeks ago. Now it's possible. Here's what needs to happen. Duke wins the ACC. That's really what needs to happen, and then a couple of these teams fall. Here is the big concern right now. Miami is the highest ranked ACC team. They're not going to play for the conference title. Their best shot is to be an at-large team, which I think they have some possibility for, and I'll talk about that later. Then you got Georgia Tech at 16. I think they could go and play for the conference title, so let's just bookmark them. Virginia, they're limping right now. Louisville, they're limping right now. Pitt's at 22. They play Notre Dame this weekend. Also, some of these teams play each other. So let me just paint a picture for you, because I know you're thinking in your head, he's crazy. The ACC champ is guaranteed a spot in the playoff. No, they're not. They're not. It's just that 99% of the time, all of the Power Four conference champs would lock down spots in the playoff. Here's the rule. The rule is there are 5 automatic spots given to the 5 highest-ranked FBS conference champs. Now, it was thought when they constructed the playoff, we don't need to say the highest-ranked Power Four champs. It just goes without saying, conference champs in Power Four leagues are always going to trump conference champs from G5 leagues. That's just always going to happen. Well, yeah, we thought so. Here's the problem. Maybe not. Duke is 8-4, or could be 8-4. They're 5-4 right now. They've got 3 more games. Only one of their losses is a conference loss. So they have to play Virginia, North Carolina, and Wake Forest. Their final 3 games. Looks like all 3 of those games are at home, by the way. Duke could go to Charlotte to play for a conference title at 8-4. As of this moment, it looks like Georgia Tech is their most likely opponent. What if they go and they do that, and they play Georgia Tech in Charlotte, and they beat Georgia Tech? Georgia Tech's going to be out. They're not going to be an at-large. Would Duke, here's the question, would Duke be one of the 5 highest-ranked conference champs? You may think, oh, yeah. I don't know that they would. I certainly don't think that they'll be ahead of USF. Let's say if USF wins the American. And I don't know that they'd be ahead of James Madison if James Madison wins the Sun Belt. And once we swallow that harsh potential reality, we ask, okay, well, what is the ACC's best shot to get a team in? It would probably be Miami, which brings me to my next point. We get off the doomsday scenario for just a second. Miami's got some oxygen, but I don't know if you were listening. I was listening to the playoff committee chair talk on the broadcast, and they were asking him, hey, how do you perceive the ACC? And he sort of showed the committee's hand a little bit. He said, outside of Miami, this league has no good out-of-conference wins to hang its hat on. So it's up to you, Miami, is what I'm saying. There could be a distinct possibility here. It's up to Miami. Miami has some oxygen. I do think there was a little correction in the rankings tonight. They got bumped up 3 spots. I do think there was a little correction because they were too low last week. First reaction we had on the show last week. Miami seems a little bit too low. It's almost like people are taking their frustration out on them via the ranking. So they're 15th right now. Look at the graphic in front of you. If you're listening on podcast, well, I just told you Miami's 15th. They need to get up to the number 10 spot, basically, for an at-large spot. Because you have to assume a couple of those 11 and 12 spots may be for the conference tie-ins. Like the 12 spot's going to go to the G5 team, probably. So let's just think this through here. Let's name the teams in front of Miami. Vanderbilt's got to go play Tennessee. Vanderbilt very well could get knocked out. Utah, in fact, I wrote this down. Utah plays our number 30, 31, and 33 teams in the JP poll. which I'm going to talk about later. So Utah's got 3 tough opponents left. They play both the Kansas schools. Who else did they play, Jesse? They got one other opponent. Utah's got 3 like legit opponents. So Utah could lose. Brigham Young is sitting there at 12. They've still got to play Cincinnati. And even if they get through that, they could go to the conference title game and lose. Let's put a pin in that because I have a lot of differing opinions in my own head about how the committee may handle a Brigham Young team that loses their second game in the conference title game. OU is at 11. OU plays Alabama this weekend. Texas is at 10. Texas plays Georgia. Texas plays Texas A&M. Notre Dame's got Pitt on the road this weekend. Point being, I mean, Oregon's got USC still. Oregon's got Minnesota this week. They got Washington at the end of the season. All these teams ahead of Miami have losable and in some cases multiple losable games coming up. Question number 1, is Miami going to take care of business? That's not a given. That is not a guarantee. But let's assume, for the sake of argument, they do. A lot more oxygen, a lot more life has been breathed into the once thought to be dead chest of Miami. So what I'm saying is let's take care of business. That's what I'm saying. Texas Tech jumped up to number 6. Okay, I've got a thought here, and I did a straw poll around the office, and it's like 50-50. You guys can tell me what you think about this. I think Texas Tech, if they win out, has positioned themselves to grab the number 5 seed. I do believe that if Texas Tech wins out, and that includes going to Arlington, going to Dallas, and winning the Big 12 championship game, I believe the added data point of winning that conference championship by a team that's already perceived to be well inside the top 10 is going to be enough to jump them over, like Georgia's there right now. I believe it would be enough to put Texas Tech there. It's a big deal because, yeah, you're going to get a home playoff game no matter whether you're 5 or you're 6 or you're 7 and you're 8. But the number 5 seed, like right now it's Georgia, that's the team that in all likelihood gets to play the G5 team at home as more than a 2-touchdown favorite. It's a very enviable spot. It's not a guarantee of a win, but it's a very enviable spot. Whereas if you drop to 6, it becomes a little more of a crapshoot because you got no clue who could be the 11 seed. So I think Texas Tech is in a good position. Now, McElroy brought something up tonight, and it's a bridge that's a little bit too far for me at the moment, but I don't think it's crazy. He said, forget about the 5 seed. Could Texas Tech be in position to potentially grab one of the top 4 seeds? Now, that's where people are going to have problems. I'm telling you, that's where people are going to have problems because if these top 4 right here, if Ohio State and Indiana win out and they go play in Indianapolis, the loser of that game is going to believe it is their birthright to still maintain a top 4 spot. I'm not going to be here to disagree with them. And if Texas A&M and Alabama win out and they go to Atlanta, the winner, of course, gets a first-round bye. The loser is also going to think it their birthright to maintain a top 4 seed and get a first-round bye. And again, I'm going to agree with them. But there is going to be an argument out there that Texas Tech's good enough as a conference champ to jump up inside that top 4 and grab one of the first-round byes. Now, that's going to be a huge debate if it does play out that way. I still think we need to see the games play out before you really know. Like, I always go back to, I think it was the first year of the 14 playoff. I think that was the year that Ohio State went into conference championship Saturday, and the thinking was they're on the outside looking in. I think this was 2014. And then they just skull-drug Wisconsin. I will never forget this because it was our first introduction to sort of how the 14 playoff era was going to work. And it went from Ohio State's on the outside looking in no matter what they do today to, oh, they just won 59-0. There's no way we can leave them out of the playoff. And it happened over the span of a few hours. Just like the drum beat went from soft to deafening to Ohio State's in to Ohio State goes on and wins the whole thing. That kind of stuff can happen, point being, in the committee room. How would the committee handle Brigham Young if they win their remaining games and then lose another game to Texas Tech in the Big 12 championship game? And I want you to think this through with me. Last year, SMU they were like 9-10, somewhere like that. They went to Charlotte. They lost a competitive conference championship game. The committee refused to drop them out. The thinking there, which is sound, it's logical, was if you're already inside the playoff bubble once your regular season ends, and you've earned the right to go play in a conference championship game, no matter if you lose there or not, we should not punish you for earning the right to play an additional game just because you lost that game. Because you got teams like Notre Dame who are sitting at home because they don't play in a conference, and then you got other teams like number 8 Oregon, let's just say, who didn't earn the right, so therefore they enjoy the comfort that they're not going to drop. You shouldn't have to suffer a drop just because you played an additional game and lost. Well, the thinking is already crystallized after 1 year. Since they didn't drop SMU last year, there's no way they're never going to drop anyone. That may be the case. I'm just suggesting, might we want to pump the brakes a little bit on assuming that we know how steadfast that committee is in that train of thought? Because here is something that could happen. And what I'm about to say should not happen. Let me be on record. My opinion is what I'm about to say should never enter the equation. But these are people, and there's a lot of money on the line. We watched SMU get benefit of the doubt last year. We watched them not get punished and not dropped out. And they got sent to Happy Valley, and they got smoked in the first round of the playoff. And you remember what the talk was just as well as I do. Everyone was screaming, see, SMU, they didn't deserve a spot to begin with. I disagreed with it. I thought the committee got it right. I thought SMU should have been in. It didn't matter if they lost by 100. They belonged in over Alabama. They belonged in over South Carolina. They belonged in over Ole Miss. That was my opinion before the game. That was my opinion after the game. I'm not on the committee this year. And all I'm saying is, if Brigham Young were to go and they finish 11-2, but they suffer another double-digit loss, 3-possession type loss, might the committee look at them, if you got a Miami floating there who finished the season strong, and say, we're going to put Miami in over them? Maybe it shouldn't happen. I'm just saying I don't think it's the craziest concept in the world to consider that it might happen. Now, we hit up FanDuel. We're just out there on the horn with FanDuel as the committee is releasing their rankings, and then we're just penciling in the bracket. And what I like to do with FanDuel is I like to say, guys, we don't have to wait until these games happen. We can just go ahead and pretend they're going to happen. And they're like, okay, what do you want? All right, well, what I want is I want to know what the lines on these games would be. So they go, and they spit them out, just like the model. And FanDuel got us hypothetical lines on all the projected first-round games. So here's what they would be. USF at Georgia. Georgia would be favored by 17.5. Yes, friends, that's a playoff game. Take it up with the committee, not me. Notre Dame at Oregon. Oregon would be a short 1.5-point favorite. Miami at Texas Tech. Can you imagine? That would be like the Hillary Clinton gif. She walks in a random kitchen, eyes wide open. Can you imagine Miami folks showing up in Lubbock? That was like Texas folks showing up in Starkville the other day. Just eyes wide. What is this? Are we on the moon? Miami would be a 5-point dog at Texas Tech. And then Texas at Ole Miss. How about Ole Miss? Favored by 4, which implies they'd also be favored on a neutral field. Now, those are your current hypothetical lines for projected first-round games. Yeah, there is a lot of movement that's about to happen this weekend, ladies and gentlemen.